All right. Hi. Hello. While I'm waiting for people to join, I'll just start talking because this will stay up here and if people want to watch it later, it's not just gonna be me staring, waiting for people to come. I am getting ready to go live on Instagram simultaneously. I don't know, in case people would rather watch it there. My Instagram is not the first Noel. Same thing as my YouTube channel. And yeah, let's see if we can do this simultaneously. So I'm here. It is dark in here. Give me one moment. I'm gonna turn more lights on. 1 second. Maybe that helped a little bit. Okay. I'm here to, let's see, 1, 2, 3, go. There's equipment in the shot. Okay, so what I'm doing now is, hi, I am going to be reading the first chapter of for those who don't know, wrote a memoir, and here's my cat Louie, who loves to go on my videos. It's going to be both. This is going to be on both YouTube and Instagram simultaneously because I'm fancy like that. So I'm live in both places right now. And Louie's going to help me. And I wrote a memoir. I wrote the bulk of it a long time ago about events that happened 20 years ago or started 20 years ago. Looks like people are joining. Yay. Just to giving a little intro, a little background on this. I was in a metal band. Yes, me. I was in a metal band. Oh, Nika's here. Ryan's here. I was in this band for a couple years, and I didn't know anything about metal. I was fresh out of high school. I was on a very determined path to get to a 4-year university, and I was transferring from a community college because I didn't have I got kind of behind with my education earlier on in school, having to be in special ed programs and stuff. So I had a lot of problems as a kid, learning disability, social ineptitude. More than that, it was extreme social anxiety, not able to make friends, getting bullied all the time. Nika's at Ink Aloud. That's another event where I read my book out loud, or portion of it. So I have a book launch event coming up on this Saturday, the 21st. I self-published through Amazon, so my book is now available and live and you're able to purchase it now on Amazon. Tell Matt I said hi. Shout out to Matt, this guy that goes to an event called Ink Aloud that happens in Florida. Speaking of Amazon, I will make it a point from now on for the rest of my life to publicly disparage Amazon every chance I get because their self-publishing process is absolutely atrocious. And it kind of screwed me up. And in the latest way Amazon has screwed me is I don't have a physical book to read. So I'm going to have to pull up a PDF copy of it on the screen, which means I should also probably get my glasses, which are pretty close to where I am sitting. So I'm going to start shortly. I'll probably wait for a few more people to roll in, give some people some time. And in the meantime, let me know if you have any questions or any comments or anything you want to talk about. How are you guys doing this week? I don't know. So here's the PDF. I have it pulled up. Maybe I'll download it. I mean, I'm using a computer that is not my current computer. It's an older computer, but it works better. And I don't have things local on it right now. This is blocking things. Having the phone leaning against the laptop is might be a problem. Glad you're published. Hope to see you in Bonita again. Bonita Springs, Florida, they're talking about. We have to get you in our Saturday jam. I will definitely come back as soon as I can. I'm waiting to get like another job. um, I don't have a full-time permanent situation right now, so can't be spending money on trips yet. But yeah, I'm gonna come back as soon as I can. Why won't Finder open? It is open. I can't talk and do things at the same time. KPF. Where's the PDF? Oh, no, that's not it. Where? That's not what I wanted to do at all. I downloaded the wrong thing. Anyway, yeah, sorry about that. I'm just rambling. Let's see. Anybody else join? Nobody on YouTube. I used to get so many viewers on YouTube. Well, not so many, but like at least 3 or 4 when I used to read other people's books out loud. That was like a pandemic thing. Let me know if you're on YouTube. Hey, say Ryan again. Let me know if you can hear me okay. I'm using a shotgun mic here, and I don't hear myself through headphones or anything. So I don't know how I sound. What's this? Oh, okay. So I'm just pulling up a digital version of the book because yeah, I'm not even going to have the physical copies I ordered in time for the book launch that I'm doing this Saturday at the last bookstore, Studio City, not the one in downtown LA, the one in Studio City. It just opened last year, pretty recently. And I'm holding my launch event there, and I've been planning this event for 3 months, and the books are not gonna be ready for me to sell there or read from. And I can't read from it now because I don't have it. I don't know what it looks like. Other people have it. Some people have bought copies already, so that's great for them. And I have a friend helping me out. Like, for some reason, she was able to get customer copies. I order author copies, and mine are not gonna get here till the 26th. I got reimbursed for all of this from Amazon, at least. There's the PDF. And I'm gonna keep moving the phone around till I find a perfect place to put it that's not blocking my view of anything important. Okay. Oh, there's more people joining. Hi, guys. I'm gonna be starting very soon to read the first chapter. And there's a prologue too. I'll read that too. So I'm gonna read the first chapter of this, and then yeah, if you like what you hear, the full thing is available. It's off to a great start already. You hear my voice all hoarse. Not hoarse, but like raspy. It's available now on Amazon. If you search Drummer Girl, there's a bunch of other, even if you're like specifically searching for books, there's a bunch of other books with that like those words in the title. And mine might not even like show up in the search results at all, or like it's be buried pages down. So I would add, you can also, I would put the link in here, but that's going to be, I can put the link on the YouTube one. But yeah, you can search, I can put a link in here, or you can just search Drummer Girl, How I Became Metal, or if you don't want to type all that, just Drummer Girl and my name, and it'll come up. And it's on paperback, hardcover, and Kindle. Soon to be a audiobook as soon as I edit all the stuff I recorded. I recorded all the chapters already. I just have to put it together and figure out where to upload it and how to do that. So yeah, I'm just kind of vamping a little bit because of just a few. Oh, thanks, Kayla. Did I meet Kayla? I don't remember meeting a Kayla, but I could just be blanking on the name. But thanks. That's awesome. I am trying to. There's a way to get on the bestseller list on Amazon. It's not as hard as it sounds. There's like so many categories that you can like put your book in, and the more niche of a category you put it in, the higher it will be on the ranking because there'll be like fewer of those books. So last time I checked, The first time I checked, I was number 26 in the book memoirs or biographies about women in metal or something like that. And I was number 26 there. And last time I checked, I was number 29, so it went down, but it fluctuates, it goes up and down. But if, like, a lot of people buy the book in a short period of time, and there's, like, a spike in sales, it can shoot up the list. So, it was only, like, 16 away from being number 10, and hey, Mondo's here. Mondo's in the book. Well, a lot. So, this is about a band I was in back in 2006 that I joined exactly 20 years ago tomorrow. Tomorrow is the 20th anniversary of when I was asked to join this band. So it was March 19th, 2006, and Mondo joined the band exactly 1 month after that. So we've known each other for 20 years now officially. And yes, Lucio is here. All my friends are here. It's a party. I'm glad all the people who, like, can't make it in person to the event on Saturday are here with me right now. Yeah, I think enough people are here that I can, like, start. I'm kinda nervous because Mondo's here, but it's okay. Um Mondo the villain? No, he's not a villain. It's okay. I mean, he might seem like one at some point, but I don't wanna spoil things. I don't know who Orangey is. There was a cat here, though, if you're talking about my cat, who's not orange, but he's a tabby, and he was on the chair on my lap a minute ago. You missed it. He'll come back, I'm sure. So yeah, now that enough people are here, I'm just gonna start. Yay. What happened? It was up and it's gone now. Let me open it again. Did I just open it on I didn't download it, that's what happened. I'm gonna download it because just in case something goes wonky with the internet. Why are we laughing out loud at Kayla? I'm confused. Okay, downloading. And it's here, so I'm gonna start. So this is Tamara's here from Australia. Oh, Tamara, sorry. It's Tamara, I think. From Australia. So recap one more time for people who are just joining. I just launched this memoir. It's on Amazon. It's called Drummer Girl: How I Became Metal. It's about a time 20 years ago when I kind of inadvertently joined a metal band. I didn't know it was metal until after I joined. So I had to learn fast because I didn't know anything about metal. It also goes over, like, my whole background in, like, being in special ed and how that tied into, like, that whole part of my life of just trying to get the special ed background, kinda trying to get caught up and trying to get myself into, like, higher education. So, while I was in community college getting ready to transfer to a four-year school, this band happened to me, and a lot of other stuff happened. That's why it's a book. Okay. So, if this was a physical book in my hands, I would show it to you, I would show you the cover, and I would show you that on the first page or the page after the title page, there is a really cool I did it myself, so I feel weird saying that. I wasn't originally gonna draw this myself, but I made a map of Los Angeles, but in the style of, like, a high fantasy novel map, just because I thought it'd be funny. Um, and said it's really cool because someone else drew it first, but then they couldn't finish it in time, so I took over. So I mostly did it myself. Um, but I based it on a design that someone else did that was really cool, is what I'm trying to say. And now I will start reading finally. Okay. Prologue. This is weird. I didn't know how it happened. We still felt like total unknowns, but this message proved there were people who knew we existed. People we didn't know knew who we were. After some cracks were starting to surface in the foundation of our struggling band, I viewed this battle of the bands offer that was just handed to us as an opportunity for us to be rejuvenated. We'd been scammed by those kids claiming to be engineers, I was pretty sure at this point, and I was trying to ignore the fact that our bassist and our vocalist hated each other, which was easy because they were pretending not to, and they were both doing a convincing job. Even I would forget sometimes, although it could have been that I just naively wanted to believe it was true. I was hoping this competition would fix everything, because we all wanted the same thing: success. And this surely had to be the first step in finally getting it. Or everything was about to fall apart faster than any of us could comprehend. Chapter 1. Me. I grew up in a middle class family, when those existed, in the 90s, south of Ventura Boulevard in the San Fernando Valley of Los Angeles. My maternal side of the family is Jewish, both grandparents hailing from New York, while my paternal line is made up of Southern Baptist recovering alcoholics, originating from a small town in Oklahoma. Not the fun kind of Southern Baptists, the casually racist white kind. My mom was born and raised in the valley, and my dad grew up on a farm until his family migrated farther and farther west, settling in Arizona, and eventually my dad and his older sister, my Aunt Phoebe, made the pilgrimage to the town where they could maybe be rock stars. They got close, made connections. Phoebe was soon hanging out with the likes of Dusty Springfield and Dennis Wilson. Then she turned down a record deal offer, thinking she and my dad could do better. Even though that life predated mine, I was raised around music. My dad got a real job, and my mom was busy running a daycare center out of our house. But I still came to believe that a home was a home if it had three things: my family, pets, and musical instruments. In February of 2006, I began my second semester at Pierce College in Woodland Hills, the suburb of LA where I lived. I had chosen to start at a community college because it was just a strategic and less expensive way to get accepted more easily into any campus in the University of California system. One could complete 2 years at the former and, at the time at least, be effectively guaranteed a spot in the latter as a transfer student. Also, I hadn't given it college any thought until my uncle mentioned this fact to me in a conversation during my senior year of high school. I guess my parents had never thought that far ahead for me either. They were so focused on just making sure I ended up with a diploma, but I didn't just want to do the bare minimum to color people impressed that I could function normally despite what all the adults had believed in the past. I wanted to impress people by doing something that was impressive. It had been years since I'd attended the special school, and since I'd last heard the phrase, "She marches to the beat of her own drum." But I wouldn't get accepted directly to a university as it stood now. So I decided that Pierce College would be a stepping stone to get me into a 4-year school, one with prestige. I wanted prestige. The preceding fall, I had taken Music 101 and passed with a 100% grade. When I was about to walk into musicianship 1, on my first day of spring semester, the instructor, who was standing just outside the door, said, "You don't belong here." My heart dropped and I froze. Huh? "You belong in musicianship 2, the next class up." To my shock, I was being told I was advanced when I still felt so new. I had only started reading basic sheet music 2 years prior, in 11th grade. I consider myself a late bloomer when it comes to my interest in getting involved in music, even though I grew up around it. My mom is a former singer and my dad a former songwriter who was in multiple bands and taught himself to play all of the instruments, and I am the product of an ad bringing them together for musical collaboration. But I didn't develop the inclination to learn an instrument until my dad handed down a guitar to me when I was 15. He taught me 2 or 3 open chords, but didn't really have the time to devote to giving me full instruction, so I enrolled myself in a guitar class at my high school. As I learned how the instrument was structured and how to build chords, I began to come up with my own progressions and melodies, and I realized that composition was a form of creativity I never knew I possessed. It occurred to me that spring semester of the 2003-2004 school year that writing music just might be my calling in life. The guitar teacher at Taft High School, Mr. Birch, praised me for how quickly I was picking everything up, the fundamentals of the instrument as well as reading music, compared to most other students at the beginner level. So he encouraged me to try out for the marching band for the following year. I told him I was pretty sure you can't march with a guitar, and he replied, "You can join the drum line." This was when I discovered percussion. I had heard of percussion, of course, but never knew the extent of the different instruments it encompassed. I was very close to becoming a cymbal player on the drum line, but then I spotted 2 giant copper drums in the classroom. I asked Mr. Birch what those were, and he told me. Still not fully apprehending or concerning myself with how they worked, I said, "I want to play those." "You want to be in the pit then?" he replied in his perky Louisiana drawl. Once I learned about pit percussion, I was sold on it. I wanted to play the triangle and the cowbell and the woodblocks and all the other auxiliary percussion instruments. But most of all, I fell in love with the timpani, the gigantic copper kettle drums that are tuned to actual notes and sound so authoritative and epic, they make you feel like an omnipotent being when beating them with your mallets. The melodic drums can be heard punctuating the 1812 overture and filling the gaps between the dramatic opening notes of Also Sprach Zarathustra, the piece used at the beginning of 2001: A Space Odyssey. The pit percussion section leader had been playing since she was a fetus, and she still looked like one. She was a tiny little thing who looked too young to be in high school, and trained me thoroughly on the techniques of the timpani and all of the other fun little instruments that the band director, who was also Mr. Birch, wrote into the four-movement piece he had composed himself for us to perform during our field show. Having a composer in the room exposed me to music notation software for the first time, and I was inspired to download that software and write my own music. We played our field show piece during halftime at football games and at marching band competitions, which we won several of, making it all the way to the Southern California School Band and Orchestra Association Championships and the Los Angeles Unified School District Championships. Sorry about that, my throat. I wished I could march with everyone else because it looked amazing, but the trade-off of being able to play the fun little instruments was that the pit percussion section had to remain stationary on the field. We would be standing up front as the rest of the band marched in memorized formations behind us. I was infatuated. I was fully dedicated and attentive to detail. I loved being able to switch to different instruments at different points in the piece, choreographing my movements around the pit to arrive on time for each instrument's entrance. I even practiced my very simple triangle part with a metronome. When Mr. Birch walked by and saw this, he smiled a big, adoring smile and told me he was proud of me, which both felt nice and left me mildly embarrassed because it made me acutely aware of how superfluous I was being. It was my first time being a part of something like this. I had been in Girl Scouts when I was younger, but instead of building, Freudian slip, instead of building my self-esteem and teaching me valuable lessons about teamwork and spirit and whatever else it's supposed to do, it taught me that no one thought I should be taken anywhere public or trusted around other people's children. I hated the Girl Scouts. Well, not as much as they hated me, I suppose. They were awful to me, and so were their mothers. They purposely excluded me during activities, and I learned the word excluded at a young age thanks to this. And they took advantage of my lack of impulse control by pressuring me into doing things they knew would get me in trouble, like opening an emergency door that set off a fire alarm in a library. We all went on a trip to Disneyland, and I broke off from the group to be with my dad the whole time, who was a chaperone. I was very much unwelcome in Troop 1721. My honor is to try, and my duty is to love, indeed. Marching band was the first time I actually felt like I was part of a team, like I belonged. We're about to find someone in the chat in this book now. Mostly, I had been a loner. I'd had one friend I'd spent all my time with through almost all of high school, Nika. Then we'd had a falling out over the summer between junior and senior year. Fortunately, that was this is so weird. Sorry. Fortunately, that was after I had signed up for marching band and had started getting to know those kids. I was at band camp lying in my tent. Stupid computer. This is why I needed a physical copy. There's a thing that popped up and blocked my whole screen. 1 second. Okay. Where was I? I was at band camp, lying in my tent, when I read her harshly worded letter officially ending the friendship. I had written her a physical letter because she wasn't taking my calls, and I wanted her to come out and say the friendship was over. She had obliged, and my dad had brought her response letter to me when he drove up to bring me extra blankets. It hurt badly, but it was a step in a better direction for my social life. It wasn't healthy for me to be entirely dependent upon this one person. But it only made sense. That's bound to happen when you find who you perceive to be the first person to view you as an equal, the only person you've actually ever connected with. I'm going to take a very short break just to catch up on the comments. Nika remembers Mr. Birch. Oh, my uncle's here. Okay. My older brother and I were born with some type of mental health issue. His severe, mine just odd and undefinable. I was the weird kid no one liked. I kept to myself because I didn't understand how anyone was able to have conversations and interact with others. It gave me debilitating anxiety to even attempt to maintain eye contact for more than the length of time it takes to process that you're making eye contact, especially with adults. I was in my own world, preferring to daydream all day instead of paying attention in class. In my mind, I was at home playing Super Mario Brothers on my Nintendo or watching Disney movies. In third grade, I had every frame of Toy Story memorized and would mentally play it from beginning to end. If I wasn't doing those things, I was imagining and discreetly acting out entire stories at my desk, using my school supplies as characters. Or I would just use my hands. Commonly, they were dinosaurs. My middle finger would make up the long neck of a brachiosaurus, the rest of my fingers, the legs, and my arm, an oversized tail, which bugged me, but it was the best I could do. Or they were birds, with one wing on the side of their head, created by putting my index finger and thumb together for the beak and flapping the remaining fingers. It made sense in my head, and I named them Yepiks. Despite all this vivid, copious imagination use, I still managed to learn. Teachers would be shocked that I knew anything, but there was some part of me in the background that was absorbing and retaining information as I disassociated. At home, and when I was very young, also in public, I would pretend I was a dog. I would fully commit to this role, walking on all fours, panting, and only communicating in whimpers and barks. I couldn't speak to people unless the pressure of being expected to respond when addressed superseded the paralyzing fear of being heard uttering sounds with my mouth. I spoke through my mom when she was with me and felt lost when she wasn't. I would whisper in her ear and she would relay what I had said. Having read about selective mutism as an adult, I now know that's what that was, but no one could determine why. Some school staff members conjectured that I had Asperger's or that I was actually mute. I was misdiagnosed with ADD, which was all the rage in the 90s. I was put on Ritalin, which suppressed my appetite and kept me up at night, as speed is supposed to do. My nighttime ADD drug, clonidine, counteracted the insomnia, but I lost so much weight I was down to 40 pounds by age 8. Everyone yelled at me to eat, and I loved food but felt completely stuffed after eating a couple of bites of anything. It was a frustrating dilemma. My mother, grandmother, and great grandmother were losing their minds with worry in Jewish matriarchal triplicate. I found a typo. Cool. I was taken off of Ritalin pretty soon after I started looking like I was being starved at home and put on Prozac. The third psychiatrist I had seen had called me an enigma and said he couldn't diagnose me, but he could just treat my symptoms. Since I couldn't concentrate or sleep and had anxiety, which are all symptoms of depression, the SSRI inhibitor was the most fitting choice. Starting from kindergarten, I was bullied relentlessly. The kids were inspired to treat me this way by the teacher, Mrs. Sharon Enfield, and yes, that is her real name, who was verbally abusive when I couldn't stay on task or if I hesitated to answer when called on. She would shame me in front of the class, and she would tear up my schoolwork when it wasn't perfect. Year after year, I got it from all sides: boys, girls, kids who were mean in general, and kids who were only mean to me. They all knew me as this weird outcast. I was stupid. I was inferior. It seemed like everyone knew who I was, and I hated that. I longed for anonymity. I felt more intelligent than most of the other kids, and I tested well above my grade level in English, but I was treated like I was inept. A handful of kids stood out by being nice to me because they were just good natured kids. There were also those few who were neutral toward me, which to me was the same thing as being nice. Nika knows Enfield was awful. Certain teachers knew I was smart, and most were kind to me, partly due to my mom complaining about how my kindergarten teacher had treated me and demanding that my next teachers were ones who knew how to interact with children. It was a tall order, but luckily they were able to pull it off. I did have to be in resource math, though, code for special ed math, and I was frequently getting sent to the school library to take these tests where I had to do things like look at drawings of people and tell a calm, overly perfumed lady what I thought these imaginary, motionless people were feeling or saying to each other. On top of the issues I was already seeing a child psychiatrist for, at age 6, I started having horrific anxiety attacks. Death and doomsday themed, intrusive, unstoppable thoughts that my young brain couldn't distinguish from reality. I was given grounding exercises, like creating a happy place to go visit in my head. a shady beach with both sand and grass, and cassette tapes of guided meditations to listen to at bedtime to help me relax, spoken by Dr. Taxi, a woman who sounded to me just like our next door neighbor. I was very fond of that neighbor, so the voice felt extra safe. But nothing could stop an anxiety attack once it came on, except time. There were some school years where I had one friend, each time a different person. When I didn't have one, I would spend recess and lunch wandering around in circles, just thinking to myself the whole time. I started third grade without a friend because Chris from second grade never showed back up after summer vacation. I could only guess that he'd switched schools. I was sad, but also kind of relieved that the dating rumors would stop. Since I was alone again, that year a buddy was assigned to me by my teacher. I was cognizant enough at that age to know it was pathetic. I could tell it wasn't something this girl wanted, even though she was very nice, which is why she was chosen, and I didn't appreciate it. It made it worse. It was only temporary, and I did end up with a real friend not long later, somehow, but she was only a third grade friend. That summer, the playdates stopped. In fourth grade, I approached her ever so timidly in class to suggest we do something together again soon, but it had been months, we'd grown and changed, and I only got an insincere, okay, laced with pity. I wasn't alone again for long, though, because the one kid from my kindergarten class who was nice to me, but also never said more than 2 words, was in my class again now, and we reconnected. We became inseparable, in fact, Nika and I. Then we started getting into trouble together. And then I was taken out of that school. My fourth grade teacher had stopped trying to get me to focus and started asking my mom to accompany me to class and teach me for her. At one point, she delegated to my mom, who knows nothing about science, the task of teaching a group of us how to build a battery. She faked her way through it and probably single handedly cost some kid a future as an engineer or something. We got a new principal that year who hated me and all children, but especially me. Couldn't be convinced that I wasn't faking my frequent migraines, took away my beanie babies, and almost expelled me because I retaliated against a girl who was trying to make Nika choose between herself and me to be friends with. My mom had had enough of it all. She had to fight an unnecessarily challenging battle to get me out of public school and into a place with teachers who understood how to handle me and would actually teach me themselves. The first school I transferred to at the start of fifth grade was not quite the right fit. I had liked the other school we looked at better because it had a Sega Genesis in the classroom, and this classroom had a PC. I've always been a console girl. Both schools had very small student populations and were for kids with behavior disorders, mental illnesses, and learning disabilities. The teacher I was assigned at this school was a large, hot tempered East African lady named Miss Onyango, and yes, that is her real name, who really didn't like when students were disruptive. By the time I was 9, I had grown out of the selective mutism and was more outgoing when comfortable around people. I had a clean slate, a second chance to be liked by classmates, and they did seem to like me. On my first day, a girl on the bus reenacted the final scene of Ferris Bueller's Day Off, except instead of offering me a warm pocket gummy bear, she offered me some warm, melted pocket M&Ms. I would laugh a lot. It was a nervous thing, and I think I was addicted to the endorphins it would release because I would compulsively replay the event that had made me laugh in my head so I could continue laughing, even and often when it wasn't appropriate. This is what was happening when Miss Onyango charged up to my desk, which was attached to my chair as one unit, lifted it off the ground with me in it, turned it upside down, and let me fall out of it onto the hard linoleum floor. Then she bellowed, "Get out of my classroom!" I staggered out in a daze as I tried to process what had just happened. That was my last day at that school. There were pictures taken of the bruise on my knee and charges pressed. Miss Onyango would later be promoted to assistant principal. I was promptly switched over to the other school, Park Hill. I could write an entire separate book about that school, with its literal short buses, teachers who were referred to by their first names, lack of grades, both grade levels and letter grades. They were on a point system, and draconian rules, breaking of which could get you sent to an all-blue room called the break room. Field trips were to the mall or to the movie theater or to the skating rink, way more often than anywhere educational. I was surrounded by boys there, so I spent my puberty years learning to socialize like a boy, which was mainly trading insults. And these kids were wild. Most of them were very angry. Many of them were raised in group homes, and some had bipolar disorder, even schizophrenia. So, more accurately, I learned how to socialize like an erratically behaved boy. In spite of how all of that sounds, I was much happier at Park Hill for a while, and I had been right the whole time. If they had just chosen the school with the Sega to begin with. After 3.5 years of receiving the more individualized education I required, it was a new millennium and a new me. I was feeling like I'd outgrown special education and was desperately ready to go back to public school with the regular kids. It took an even bigger, even more unnecessarily challenging battle where they ended up having to schedule a secret IEP meeting without the stuffy lady who, despite being the only person who wasn't my parent, teacher, counselor, or therapist and hadn't spent any time with me, was the only one staunchly unconvinced that I could leave Park Hill. It really could be its own book. Thanks to the triumphant efforts led by my mom, I was free to go after what was the equivalent of the first semester of 8th grade, and I thrived at Parkman Middle School. While socially, I was still a work in progress. I had conquered the issues that had once hindered my progress in the classroom. I wished I had signed up for the Taft Marching Band much earlier than senior year because it finally granted me a sense of purpose. Through my experiences and the acquaintances I made as a result of joining, I became increasingly engrossed in the world of music performance. I was not only involved in the geeky side of it, adorned proudly in my bright red, white, and gold uniform, complete with plumed hat, but I had opportunities to watch other types of musical ensembles at school, including rock bands. When I caught the first glimpse of someone my age playing a drum set on stage, my heart pounded with envious yearning. I want to do that, I thought to myself. My dad had a drum set packed away and collecting dust since the mid 90s, although the drums had been in his possession since the late 70s, up in our attic. I begged him to take them down into the garage and set them up. I didn't just want to learn to play them, I needed to. By the time I graduated high school, I had bought myself my own drum set. It was only $300 from an online musical instrument catalog, and it included the most basic elements that come with a standard drum set: a snare drum, a bass drum, two tom-toms, a floor tom, and all necessary hardware. Plus, it included a hi-hat, one cymbal, and a pair of drumsticks. All of this was $300. No, I did not purchase this in the 1930s. It was just really, really, really low quality, made by an obscure brand called Verve. But I had no idea how much drums should cost, usually in the thousands for good ones, which doesn't include cymbals, or what brands were good or anything at all. I'm sure my dad did, but asking him would have been pointless because on my income, which was zero because I was 17, I couldn't afford anything close to pro quality anyway, nor should I waste half of my hard earned savings account, a combination of birthday and holiday checks from relatives and earnings from a summer job from the previous year, on something I didn't at all need. My mom wouldn't allow me to touch my savings, but conceded that if I found a way to earn the money, I could go ahead and buy the drum kit. I had my heart set on this particular one because it was such a great deal. And it was blue. So I borrowed $10 from my parents to buy the first of many bulk variety packs of candy bars from Costco. And I brought them to school every day with a printed out image of the drums to motivate me and to emotionally appeal to prospective buyers. The plan was to sell the chocolate bars to students for $1 each until I made enough to cover the drums and tax and shipping. When I was just shy of my goal, I was brought into the office by an administrator. He asked me if I was selling the candy for a club. Apparently, this was the only condition under which students were authorized to do this. Initially, I lied and said I was. Then he asked what club it was, and I panicked. Um, music? It's a music club? I couldn't stand the grilling anymore and confessed it was for a music related purpose, but it was personal and not through school. I promised I would stop that very day if I could just get my candy back. I quickly sold the rest of the bars, reached the goal, returned my parents' investment, and ordered the drums. It was one of the few times in my life I had ever had ever been dishonest with an authority figure or defied a rule. I was a very obedient person. I was committed to a drug and alcohol-free existence. I had never tried a cigarette. I didn't lie. I didn't even curse. I was a shy and soft-spoken, sheltered, and innocent girl. But that would change soon. And it all started with pretty, shiny blue drums. I had to assemble so many parts entirely from scratch with no instructions. They came with plastic sticks and an undersized cymbal that was pliable and whose texture made me certain it was made of Teflon. It was basically a toy. It all made the modest price tag make more sense. I continued to use my dad's drums whenever I got the inkling to play. I'm going to take one more little tiny break. I didn't belong at Park Hill. I think I did for like a little while. Yeah, Nico remembers, like, all of this stuff because, like I said, kindergarten, that's how long we've known each other. Okay. In 2005, I graduated from Taft with a 4.0 GPA and double honors. Everyone in my family was overwhelmed with pride over my achievements. There is generally nothing extraordinary about making it through high school with good grades, but for me to have done so was viewed as some kind of miraculous feat by those who saw where I had started. I could see this, but at the same time it didn't feel like enough. I had lost so much time to the special needs world, I almost didn't feel fully caught up, but I had begun to feel normal, and that felt not insignificant. I knew there was more I could do, though, even bigger things out there for me. But it wasn't only to prove a point to everyone else, I also wanted to prove to myself that it could be done. Since I had done so well as a percussionist and had even received an unofficial band superlative award at the end of senior year, certifying me as the band member most often mistaken for a professional player, because that happened twice, once by a competition judge and once by a teacher from another school observing one of our rehearsals. Mr. Birch had encouraged me to audition for the wind ensemble at Pierce ahead of their fall semester. It was a pretty prestigious ensemble, and you may know me well enough by now to know that this appealed to me. But I didn't think that with only 1 year of experience, I would actually be accepted. As it turned out, I passed the audition, and I became a legitimate percussionist in the Los Angeles Pierce Symphonic Winds, a community band with musicians of all ages, not just students at the school, who were all significantly experienced and skilled. That fall, I also enrolled in every music class I could. That would be the major I would declare when I transferred to UCLA. This was my career path. This was real. I was going to compose music for a living. I had wanted to go into filmmaking briefly before I changed course to music, so I concluded that film scoring would be a perfect way for me to achieve the best of both worlds. I had a plan, and this was the beginning of the rest of my life. So very interesting what actually happened. So that is the end of chapter 1. Hope you enjoyed that. Um, and yeah, if anyone's interested, again, this is available now in multiple formats on Amazon. And I'm working on getting it into other like bookstores. Yeah, figuring that out because I'm going through Ingram Spark, which is the other self-publishing place. And that's where you have to put it if you want it to go to like Barnes and Noble and stores like that. Thank you for that comment. Beautiful ending to the chapter. Oh, thank you, Ryan. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, if people are not crazy about Amazon, I get that. And that's why I want to have it other places too. Also, because, I want to have it in Barnes and Noble, especially the one in Calabasas. And you'll know why if you read the book. I was thinking how crazy it would be if I did a live reading in Calabasas. That'd be so funny. To only very few people know why that's funny, but you all will if you read it. And so yeah, it's Drummer Girl: How I Became Metal, and you can just like search for it. Calabasas sucks. Nika knows all. And yeah, I don't think there's anybody on YouTube actually. So I'm gonna end that stream, but I'll stay on Instagram if anybody wants to chat a little bit more. Or like I said, if you want to ask questions or something. Thanks for listening, YouTube. And I'm ending that stream now. Boom. Ended.